Thank you for joining our ETRAGE webinar this week. Today we are focused on Creo 13, which was released by PTC last month. We will briefly talk through some of the few of the new features, and then we'll actually walk you through and demo some other new functionality that we think will add value to your product development. Please note that everyone is muted. You will need to use that Q&A icon for any questions you have during today's session. Those can be submitted at any time. Additionally, a recording of today's webinar will be available online to rewatch and share. And everyone registered for today will receive a link via email when the recording is available later this week. With me today is Shei. Shei, can you advance the slides for us? Thank you so much. Today with me is Shei. He's one of our senior Creo technical specialists. We both reside in the great state of Ohio and have been in the manufacturing space for over a decade. Our entire team enjoys working closely with design and manufacturing companies to build digital threads that connect your people, your processes, and your data across your organization. So today, after a brief introduction by me of who ETRAGE is, in case you don't know, I will hand things over to Shei to talk and show some of that new functionality of Creo 13. Again, at any point, questions can be submitted using that Q&A icon, and we will address those questions after the demonstration. So who is ETRAGE? ETRAGE has been a PTC partner for over 20 years. In the early 2000s, we started as a software development company, but have expanded our offerings to support product lifecycle management adoption, to extend beyond engineering, which is common, and across the entire manufacturing enterprise. Our global development and support teams address your PLM adoption by supporting the systems, processes, and people, no matter what size or age of your organization. All of our ETRAGE solutions, which you can find out more about through past webinars or our website, have been developed through requests from companies like you, whether you're in medical device, heavy equipment, home goods, aerospace. If you have an issue, let's start a conversation. We're happy to develop solutions that fit your business needs, building upon or streamlining your current processes. We have been doing that for over 20 years. And with that, I'll hand things over to Shei.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Sinead. So I'll go ahead and dive in on what's new. And the first, I guess, big topic I'll talk about is going to be, in this case, generative design in assemblies. So this is the first, one of the, overall, I would say typically the past, generative design in Creo has typically been limited to part mode. And so you always had to, if you were, wanting to do generative within the context of an assembly, you always had to dumb it down to a single part. You always had to take the one part and then export that out. Which sometimes didn't capture the full fidelity of what you were trying to model, because oftentimes your parts don't live in isolation. They live within the context of other parts, and they interact with other parts, and there are forces and reactions and moments that are generated from other parts, right? And so now the ability to do all of that within the context of an assembly, right, means that you can now more fully define and model exactly how your components will behave within the context of the assembly. And so everything else is going to be the same in terms of, defining your starting geometry, your preserved bodies and surfaces, and extruded geometry. And the only difference now is you can run that button from within the context of an assembly. So Next thing I'll hit on is going to be the generative design solution as well. There's also now an improvement that now allows multi-physics. And so typically, again, in the past with generative, you always, when you're specifying your design criteria, you always had to specify essentially one goal, right, or criteria, which may be, to minimize the mass or to change the resonance frequency, above or below a particular frequency value, or additional constraints. Well, in this case, now there's the ability to add multiple factors, right? So you could say, hey, I want you to, minimize mass. So again, that's a focus on strength and safety factor, right? While also changing the resonance frequency and making sure it's the maximum possible or above 500 hertz or whatever have you. Right? So you now have the ability to um, define multiple physics for it to solve in one simulation run, right? And one optimization run. And so the eventual end result is one that would satisfy both of those criteria, not just one or the other. And then the next set of improvements, these ones are more so, I would say, there's not a lot of, uh, these are more, I guess, some miscellaneous ones, I'll call it that. So first is the fact that, the system parameters are now cleaned out whenever you do a save as in Creo when you're connected to Windshield. And so, as you know, in most cases, or I guess I'll say in a lot of cases, you're typically not starting from a brand new design from scratch. And in a lot of cases, it's iterative design, right? So you take an existing item, model A, you do a save as to model B, and then you make it, incrementally better, right? You change geometry or make something an improvement to that. Well, historically, if you were connected to Windshield, and from inside of Windshield, you did a save as to model B, Windshield understood that model B is different than A, and so B will not inherit all of the um, windshield lifecycle parameters that A had, right? So B was its own object, right? Well, in the past, in all the versions of Creo, if you did that save as from within Creo itself, Creo didn't understand that. And so if you did save as from model A to B, B would inherit all the same, windshield related attributes as A, right? And it's not until you then have to do some, additional, work to and manual workarounds before you could then tell Creo, hey, ignore the life cycle state for, for model, A, and don't apply that to B, and let B have its own, life cycle state or date creator or things like that. Well, in this case, they've done away with all of that. And so now in Creo, if you initiate a save as from within Creo in a session where you're connected to Windshield, the new model comes with completely clean system parameters. And so Creo now understands that's its own brand new object, and that will follow its own, Windshield attributes inversion from there. So essentially now they're just making the Creo behavior match the Windshield behavior in terms of where you initiate the savings from. The next improvement, and this one is more so, the last couple are more so general improvements all across the board. This one here is that Creo now leverages what's called advanced vector extensions. And basically it's a technology that's available on a lot of modern Intel and AMD processors, right? And so this is enabled on the processor level or on your CPU, and it allows it to execute multiple operations in parallel. And so typically in Creo, where you would see that is when it comes to areas like scientific calculations or also geometry kernel calculations as well. And so for the most part, because it's CPU based, people are using AMD or Intel based CPUs. Most modern systems used by Creo customers will typically support AVX2, which is this improvement here. And so, meaning, again, for PTC's numbers, there's probably about up to a 30% performance improvement in certain areas. Now, so what you then expect is typically, faster performance for, compute-intensive Creo workflows, right? And improved utilization of modern CPU capabilities, and also then reduced, execution time for large data processing. Now, this is also an improvement where I guess PTC would call it an initial improvement, right? Where it's primarily based on a lower level Creo operations, but there are future plans to increase this, in future releases to expand the footprint in how you can Creo utilizes this across other aspects of the software. So you can expect this to grow in this impact in future versions of Creo. Next is also going to be reduction of redundant assembly generations. And this is one where, especially in cases where you are creating a solid feature in an activated part in an assembly. In the past, there's some redundant regenerations that Creo now just obviates, right? And so again, the value here is you're improving productivity, and you're reducing the time it takes for a model to regenerate, especially if you have, in this case, you're designing a context and you have a large assembly. All right, so I'll pause here, and then I'll go into a live demonstration, and some of the other improvements here I'll just show in the demonstration. All right, so close this first. We'll start off with this model, and actually instead of showing this model, I'll actually close it and start from scratch. And by the way, first thing you'll notice in any of these, in the new 13 UI, there's this, you'll see this button here to say to highlight new. So any new features, so you can enable this first off, and if it's enabled, any new features in Creo, you'll have that kind of a blue, you'll see it over here, this blue triangle glyph over here, to show that that item is new to this particular version of Creo. Now, of course, this shows up here for the Creo AI Assistant, and I will come back and circle around to this one over here and show that in the demo. But for now, I'll go ahead and say, let's open a model. And first thing I'll note, now, of course, you can always open, any model, typically. But the first thing that's new, in this case, you always have, when you're looking for a model to open, parts and assemblies, right? And now some of those assemblies could be sub-assemblies, and there could be, top-level assembly. And of course, you always have to know what the top-level assembly name was, right? So if it's 0001 or whatever it is, you always have to know what that one was, because again, it's just as easy to open a sub-assembly and there's no way to delineate that, because they're all just called .asm. Well, now in Creo, there's in the quick access over here, you can always, like before, filter by only showing parts or assemblies or drawings. But now you can also say, hey, only filter by top level assembly. And now you can see there's that blue triangle here that says, hey, this is the functionality to Creo 13. But now if I filter by this, it only shows me here, hey, this guy is the top level assembly. And so again, it's easier for me to, instead of having to sift through 50 or 100 different objects on my screen trying to find which one is top level, to immediately go and pick that. All right. So the next improvement here is going to be, I'll go through, I think it's under tools. There's the performance report, and it opens up in a separate monitor for me here. So I sometimes have to drag it over. But in this case, again, what's new is this. It shows again with the blue glyph, but this retrieval is now new. And this is controlled by a config option that you can set. I think the default is no, but you can always turn that on. And if you do, it will show you the time it took for Creo to retrieve the object you selected. In this case, for it to open this assembly. And it'll show you that whether it's by the assembly structure, so you can always drill down, right, and open look at each of the different components underneath it, right? Or you can show it here by a flat list. And so if you're ever needing to troubleshoot Creo interactions, whether you're opening a large assembly and you feel like maybe the speed is a little bit slow and you're wondering, well, is it maybe from a windshield end, right? Or whether it's from a computer, whether maybe I'm maxed out on RAM or resources or the computer is struggling, right? One of the ways you can do that is where you can query Creo now and say, hey, let's, give me a performance report on retrieval so I can see where the issue lies, right? Is Creo, retrieving it fast enough or not? You can now kind of see that in this case with this performance report over here for retrieval. Another improvement here. I'll go ahead and open a few other models. I'll say, let me take piston assembly. I'm also going to open that as well. And this for me is one that I frankly find very helpful. In the past, it would open all of these in separate windows, right? And so then in my model tree at the bottom over here, I would have 5 or 10 or 15 different windows that you open, right? Or that would open that I could select from. And if I, as a typical Windows user, if you're using, Alt Tab to shift between windows, all of a sudden now, 50 of my windows are clogged with Creo windows. Well, in this case, if we have multiple, objects open in the same session, Creo stores them as tabs over here at the top. All of them are now tabbed. Right? And so you still have the same single window, and you can now switch between, a particular tab over here, right? As always, you can, if you put your mouse over a particular tab, it'll show you a preview of what's inside of it. Right? So without having to go select it immediately. You can also right-click, and if you wanted, you could take whatever's in that tab and move it to a new window. Right? So that way, if you wanted to, say, for example, do something in side-by-side view, you could still do that as well. But by default, now the behavior is to open in tabs instead of a new window. And by the way, this behavior is governed by config.pro. So you can always, if you prefer the open in window functionality, you can always toggle this off and go with that workflow. Right. Another improvement here is, or in Creo, is going to be now this one. I actually, frankly, was not aware if this is new to Creo 13 specifically, or if it was introduced in prior versions, and I'm just now noticing it. But it's one of those that there's been a gap for years, and I'm happy to notice it here in Creo 13. So basically, whenever you do a save as, I'll call it save a copy. Historically, if I was taking an assembly and I want to send this to a supplier or something, in the past I had to do a save as backup, back it up to a different folder, and then go to that folder and then zip it up so I can send it over to a supplier. Well, in this case, when I do a save as, there's the option over here to save as a zip file. And if I do that, all I just do is specify the zip file name, right? And when I'm done, Creo creates the entire mod. It takes all the dependents, zips it, puts it in the folder, zips it up, and now I have that one zip file that I can send over to a supplier. And so now this is something where, again, from many years of training Creo classes, I've had many users that use SolidWorks in the past, and they say, hey, well, there's a SolidWorks pack and go functionality. It makes it very easy to share data with vendors and suppliers. Does Creo have something like that? And in the past, and it was always a two-step operation: save as backup and then zip up the backup in the folder. Well, in this case now, this essentially mirrors that functionality of you can just save as a zip file and immediately send it out. Right? Now, again, this might not be new to Creo 13. It might have been introduced in other versions, but I just now noticed that if anyone knew of this functionality in a prior version of Creo, send a note in the chat or in the Q&A to let me know. Hey, this was introduced 2 versions ago. Yeah. But again, notice this; it's amazing, and yeah, I just wanted to highlight this as well. So last off here, I'll pull out the Creo AI Assistant. And this is one of the additional improvements that has been added. That's new to Creo 13, definitely. And it's so there are 3 flavors to this that PTC has planned in their roadmap. The first one is called Creo Advise, which is what you see here. Right? And so the AI assistant is it's essentially, you can think of it here as an advisor. Right? And so one of the things you could do is, well, first off, you could say, well, what can you do, or just ask it, how can you help me, right, in a session, right? And it'll tell you, and it's typically in human readable language, right? And so sometimes it says, okay, well, I can guide you by, step by step on how to use particular features, right? Or I can help you with, engineering decisions and formulas. And so now, if you ever, using a particular feature where I'm like, okay, well, I want to use the style tool, well, but I don't understand what all the options are. I've not used style before. I've not been formally trained in style, but I think it might be helpful for a particular workflow, right? And so I could very easily say, hey, okay, and yeah, I could just ask it questions in natural language, and it'll go ahead and define and explain all of that for me. And so this makes upscaling or exploring new areas of the UI and the interface or Creo a little bit more easier, because you can ask questions and it understands that, and this starts to go ahead and find the relevant answers to that. Okay. So, and again, here it goes. It comes up and says, okay, well, for style, here are all the different operations that you can do, and gives an explanation for what each one of them does. Now, you'll notice in this case, it's concatenating the information from several different sources at the same time. And so in this case here, there's probably content from the Creo help menus, and probably also in this case, this is most likely a PTC knowledge base. I can also ask it in this case. So say for example, like I say. Now, in this particular session I have over here, this is not a windshield connected session, right? But if I'll just ask it this for a second here. If I had an issue where I could not check in a model to windshield, right? I could ask and it'll come up with solutions for me on or suggestions on what might be the issue, what I could try to fix it, right? And in this case, again, it asks for more information. But then there's a few quick checks on open the event manager, check to see whether clear the local file.
Shay, you're breaking up on us. Just stay close to your mic, please.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Do that. All right. So I'll check to see whether I can clear up the local cache, or whether it's parameters not mapping, or whether the server is unavailable. And so a lot of these are things where in the past, if you were going to search the PTC knowledge base to if you had an issue you couldn't figure it out, a lot of times what you search in the knowledge, what you see in the knowledge base is highly dependent on what you search and how you search and the keywords you use in the search. I always feel like you have to massage the search in the knowledge base search the right way to find the right result. Well, in this case, now you can just ask in natural language, right? And the AI assistant can find relevant information for you, and it might be based off of knowledge base information, But again, it finds all the relevant information without you having to go, hope you're using the right keywords and searching the knowledge base. Right? This kind of does that for you. And so again, like you said, it's an assistant, right? And this is, I'll call it, level one of the Creo roadmap and how they plan to implement these functionalities. But it's incredibly powerful. You can also ask it to, say, for example, look at your recent Creo message logs, right? And so, say, for example, you're modeling and you come up and you have an issue that happens where something fails to generate, right? Well, you can tell it here, hey, look at the recent Creo message logs, right? It knows the Creo session. It can look in there and see what the recent, failure was, and then it can give you information as to what the issue was and how maybe you could fix it. Or another session I had where, I said, hey, I have, I want to integrate Creo with another application where I want to dump out the Creo parameters, but I want these to be given in a structured XML format. So can you give me a Python script to take the Creo parameters that I dump out as a TXT, file, for example, and I want to transform that to an XML, and it'll go ahead and give you the full Python, script there that you can then just copy and paste and implement. And so there are many different ways you can use it. Ultimately, the value will be in trying it out, testing it, using it, and seeing how it works for you. But ultimately, it's a new powerful feature that PTC's introduced, and it's just the sky's the limit, I would say, on how you could try this and see how it works for you. Now, the other thing I should also mention is this is the first iteration, like I said, in how PTC is introducing this. The next level is called, I believe it's advised automate. I think is the next level, and that one is kind of going to be looking. Oh, sorry, the next level is assist, I should say. Sorry, and in that case, that one you're looking at model aware guidance and troubleshooting. And then the highest level from there is going to be automate. And in that case, you're going to be looking at your integration capabilities and being able to automate and have it, run your model, maybe run, simulations and analyses, and then, concatenate all that information together, right? And so, Assist, I believe, is currently in closed beta. And so it's a closed group. You can request access from the PTC communities page. But again, that will be coming in a future version of Creo, out of beta, and then Automate will be coming, beyond from there as well. And so again, these are going to be improving in the Creo roadmap as new versions are released. But we just wanted to, again, show this is new functionality, and it's exciting to see how PTC improves this from here. So that's all by the way of demonstration here. And all that being said, it's not time for Q&A. So what questions have come up, and or any other questions you have right now, you can put them in the Q&A chat box, and yeah, we'll go ahead and answer them live.
So we do have a question in. I'm going to give a few more minutes so that everyone else can type it out. But the question is related to the new AI feature. For companies that don't allow AI to be used, is there a way to turn it off in the Config Pro?
That's a great question, and yes, with almost everything in Creo, yes, there is a config option for that. So I believe here, and it opens in a separate window for me, screen for me here. But yes, in the config options, there's a Creo AI Assistant over here, and you can easily, check that box to turn it on or off. And you'll notice here the config option is that AI_assistant, AI enable assistant, all with underscores in between. And yes, you have to restart Creo for the changes to apply, but yes, you can turn that off.
Why don't we share our upcoming calendar while we wait to see if any other questions come in? Thank you. Okay, so while we wait to see if there's any more questions, because they always seem to come in last moment as you guys are working on typing those out, I did want to let you guys know that we typically present design and manufacturing webinars every 2 weeks, as well as offering public and private Creo and Windchill training. So on your screen, you'll see some of the up and coming webinars, which include using AI to convert CAD data to product and maintenance instructions. On that one, you'll learn how AI can automatically transform CAD models into product documents and maintenance instructions, helping organizations to reduce documentation time or address any technical writer shortages you may have. Additionally, our digital corrective action webinar will address our ETRAGE solution to help manufacturers mainstream corrective action processes, improve collaboration between engineering and quality departments, and reduce reoccurring quality issues that you may be dealing with in a digital closed loop approach. Did want to point out that our September 14th intro class is guaranteed to run. So if you have any new hires and are looking to get them in a hands-on instructor-led experience, that will be happening the week of September 14th. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. Before we let you go, please note that the latest PTC patch for Windchill is now available. It was released last week, I believe, on July 14th. If you're using Windchill and your IT or your partners have not applied that latest patch yet, first of all, please do. And if you need any help, reach out to us. We're happy to help. She, can you switch to the next slide? Oh, look, we do have a question. Where on your site can we find webinars? Great question. Across the top in the menus, you'll find that under events. And you'll see the next few, typically do like the next 4 or so. And if you have any topics that you guys are interested in, you can click on the Contact Us tab and let us know. And if we have expertise, whether within ETRAGE or one of our partner organizations, we're happy to present on that. Okay, so as we wrap up today, we invite you to learn more about ETRAGE, our software and service solutions from past webinars. Those can also be found on product pages within our website, as well as our ETRAGE YouTube channel. We invite you to reach out. We're happy to discuss any challenges you're having, including looking for PTC training. And last slide, we wanted to share with you our contact information. As promised, we will send out a link to today's recording. Many times that recording also has a transcript on it. We know that she was having some technical difficulty today, running through multiple mics before we launched today. So the transcript hopefully will be helpful in case any words dropped. And lastly, from all of us at ETRAGE, we thank you for spending the time with us today, and hopefully we'll see you next time.